We'll check out a serious collection of Baldwin motion supercars near Indianapolis, Indiana. Then burn them in a 73 Baldwin motion Camaro. Plus, we'll
Hi, I'm Dennis Gage. Thanks for tuning in to My Classic Car, home with a certified car nut. Back in the mid-60s, a handful of performance gurus were teaming up with OE manufacturers and dealers to produce supercars that came with factory warranties. Now, everybody's heard of Carroll Shelby and his Mustangs and Don Yanko and his Camaros, but there was another matchup on Long Island, New York between Baldwin Chevrolet and Joel Rosen's Motion Performance that produced some of the most radical and arguably the most powerful of these showroom racers. Well, I'm just outside Indianapolis, Indiana with Dan McMichael. Dan, how you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Man, I'm real well. I'm in a sea of motion performance here. Dan, these are incredible. You know, you've got quite a collection of vets here. What am I looking at here?
Well, first of all, this is a Motion GT Corvette, and the GT Corvette is probably the cream of the crop as far as what Joel did. They only did 10 of those because of their price tag, which
was how
ran
much?
Somewhere close to $13,000 completely off
in 1970 or so?
1969 and 1970.
That was a lot of money.
He originally thought that this would be the line that took him and really sold extremely well, but as it turned out, because of the price tag, a lot of people just couldn't afford to buy them. And so it ended up being a car that was only produced, I believe, only 10 total GTs were done.
Well, now, of course, you know, Baldwin motion cars and all those were, you know, they're known, they're supercars, they were street cars, but that wasn't really his goal in building this car, was it?
On this particular car, his goal was luxury, without a doubt. You start off with an LS6 big block that has 535 horsepower.
Well, that's really respectable. And pretty much the full motion treatment on it, right? I mean, everything you could do to it almost.
Everything you could possibly imagine was done to this car, from camming to intake to ignition. The neat part is that this car is optioned with a Turbo 400 that came with an extra gear, and you'll see a Hone overdrive lever on the right side of the console in here. And with one flip of a lever, this car gained an extra gear and also reduced the differential gearing from 488 to 342. So basically you went from a radical strip car to a highway cruiser with one flip of a lever.
Man, basically a two-speed rear end, right?
That's correct.
Well, and he really wanted this GT, you know, this touring, European touring car feel. I mean, you got the Le Mans filler, and a wild rear window too.
Yeah, this is a fastback rear window that Joel put in the cars. His claim was that he wanted to have room for luggage, but in reality what he was trying to do is create room for a couple of Newfoundland dogs that he had so they could ride him around town.
Luggage, dogs, whatever. But it had the, you know, it pretty much had the trademark side pipes that
I think the hooker side pipes and the paint, the motion paint scheme with the arrowed sides, and then he always liked to put a center stripe down a lot of his Corvettes for distinctive striping, and those are trademarked.
Those lens covers are really wild, but as wild as this is, it isn't even close to as wild as the Spider here. What's the deal on the Spider?
Coming up, more Baldwin motion muscle. But first,
welcome back to My Classic Car. Dan McMichael's Baldwin motion supercars were so unique. Dan gave you the scoop on this extra wide prototype Spider.
The Spider's probably one of the more wild motion cars ever done. And
I wouldn't argue with that.
You're looking at the prototype car. This was built as a cafe racer to race on the Can-Am circuit, and this car was set up again with the suspension so that it had a great feel of going around corners and things like that.
It's so wide, though. I mean, it's almost insanely wide.
It is insanely wide, as a matter of fact. And again, this became the car that a number of Spider cars were produced from. The Spider cars all had kind of a trademark yellow color, and usually had a Spider painted on the hood, actually.
But this was the prototype.
This is the prototype car. And this is actually numbered 0001, so it must have meant that Joel was planning to build a bunch of these things.
He thinks big. This interior is almost a living room. I mean, it's pretty, I mean, the diamond pleat and everything, or the buttons.
Yeah, Joel liked to give everything his little flair, and the diamond pleat interior was one of his flares.
Even the door panels.
The door panels. I mean, he put his own trademark things on everything and made them different and unique than some of the other supercars that were built, like the Yankos and Nickeys and Burgers and things like that.
Louvered rear window.
Yeah, you got a drop-down rear window and then the louvers to keep the driver cool.
Oh, wow.
And, of course, then the neatest part of this car, I think, is the rear end of this, where he added the third tail light.
And again, look at the tires under that thing. I mean, the flares are there for real. They're to accommodate those massive tires.
Absolutely.
I mean, how is this on the road?
It's fun to drive. In fact, I had it out yesterday, and I had people just kind of falling out and stopping and going off the road as we went by. And it handles like a dream. It really, really does.
With all that, probably another 500, how many? 535?
530 horsepower, I believe.
Now this is a very special motion car, isn't it?
This one's very special, Dennis. This one is the car that actually sat on the showroom floor when Motion Performance was shut down by the federal government. And as that story goes, as the gas crisis hit in '73, the federal government clamped down on emissions restrictions and things such as that, and they started to give Joel a hard time as to what he was doing to his cars up there. But this car was made up of what he said was leftover parts. This is a '74 Corvette, and the neatest part of this car is it's all in the engine.
Well, it says L88. Is that the truth?
Yeah, it is one of the original L88s that he had shipped to him that he said he still had laying around at the end. And he stuffed it in this, and after his motion makeover with cam and intake and ignition and everything that Joel did to the engines, this car makes somewhere close to 600 horsepower.
Man, I mean, and is it incredibly fast?
Oh, it's amazing to drive. This car has a lot of top end to it too, so when you get it out on there and you punch it and you're really, really flying, you just lay back in the seat. And this thing will go somewhere 180 to 190 miles an hour. I have not driven it that fast personally just yet.
Well, these Corvettes are killer, but everybody knows pretty much that Motion's bread and butter were the Camaros. You got a nice Gen 2 there.
Yeah, Dennis, let me show you.
Yeah, I want to see it.